the ice? Why is it so big?
So it doesn't melt. It's actually really interesting how they do it. It's this one company out in Boston that... That went south so fast!
Well, let's move now to May 30th with the R-rated comedy A Million Ways to Die in the West. This project comes from writer, director, and star Seth MacFarlane, the creator of The Family Guy and 2012 surprise hit Ted. MacFarlane is supported by a strong cast here, including Charlize Theron, Liam Neeson, and Neil Patrick Harris, in a portrayal of the Old West that I think you could pretty safely call a parody. Jill, I know you weren't a huge fan of Ted, but many were, so how do you think A Million Ways to Die in the West is going to compare to that?
You know, I wasn't, Lauren, and I really didn't expect to like the trailer for A Million Ways to Die in the West, but I actually thought it was very funny. Yeah. I mean, it's essentially, it feels like Seth MacFarlane was just dropped into a caricature of the Old West as himself, you know?
Yeah.
He's not, like, really playing anyone.
Yeah,
and
he's playing Seth MacFarlane.
I think part of what I like about it is that it feels very self-aware. Like, it's obviously ridiculous.
It's not historically accurate.
They're very, the characters in the movie seem very aware of the ridiculously, and that's really part of the comedy. And so I like the trailer a lot, actually. And I sort of feel like if people liked Ted, which they did, it did 68% and something crazy, like 54 million the first weekend at the box office. Like, people really should like this because this seems, I think this is going to have a broader appeal. I'm going to go, I really couldn't bring myself to go much higher in terms of Rotten Tomatoes, but I did go 66%. And then I'm going to say 32 million, which is actually quite a bit less than Ted, but I cannot imagine this getting anywhere in the 50s. I mean, that just, the fact that Ted got in the 50s the first weekend, that just seems crazy.
Still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it
it's
just
hard
seems
to fathom.
crazy. So I think this is going to do great, especially for what it is, and those are my numbers.
Well, I'll jump right in there. I think the reason that Ted did as well as it did at the box office, like you said, 54 million opening weekend, is mostly due, or at least partly due to the fact that it had the star power of Mark Wahlberg. In this particular film, they're selling the film on Seth MacFarlane's name, not Mark Wahlberg's name, and the guy who brought you Family Guy. So we'll see how that shapes up as Family Guy winds down a little bit more. I don't know that I think that's why that got such high box office returns the opening weekend.
It's a great point. Although you see Charlize Theron in this, you see Liam Neeson in this, you see Neil Patrick Harris in this. I mean, there's still quite a bit of...
Maybe, but they're definitely not selling it that way.
That's true.
And so we'll see what the effect that has on it. I agree with you in that I think it's going to do well with critics. I'm not as excited about this. However, it's kind of like a bad commercial jingle that the more times I've watched the trailer, the funnier and more endearing I find it. Like, oh, that ice block falling. Isn't that hilarious? But it's really, the first time I watched the trailer, I was kind of put off by because it was so ridiculous. And maybe now, maybe I needed to understand what the point was, which is something you seem to feel very comfortable in, the idea of parody.
It was very obvious to me.
So let's wrap this up here and say, yeah, was it now? I'm going to say 57% positive. I don't see it doing as high as Ted, which came in at 68%. I am going to say it's going to do very well, though. I'm going to go 41 million. For an R-rated comedy, if it gets that amount, they should feel very happy.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's going to do pretty good.
Interesting. I think it will too. I'm a little bit nervous that maybe we're seeing a lot of the funny parts of the movie in the trailer. And I say that because I went back and I found a Red Band trailer.
And I've watched that too.
Yeah, but it's basically the exact same as the non-Red Band trailer, but they just show like a quarter second more of whatever they cut away from in the Green Band trailer.
I actually think it's a good thing. I think that makes me believe there actually are funnier things still to show. That seems like a really good marketing idea. Like, let's show you the Green Band version of the film, and then you can watch a little bit more of the Red Band. But to be fair, I'd rather see the same jokes in both trailers than a whole different set of jokes, and therefore I get double the amount of things spoiled for me.
Maybe that's true. I don't know. I just worry that there are only so many jokes that are good enough to put in a trailer. I think but we'll see. Seth MacFarlane is very funny, and if that wasn't the case, I would have gone higher. So I'm saying 60%, which is certified fresh, but it's not, again, as high as we're saying that Ted was. And 38 million, which again, like you're saying, R-rated comedy, very, very good, particularly in this year or last year. R-rated movies just haven't been doing as well in general. Or, really, really ever for an R-rated comedy. I'm optimistic for it, but I don't think it'll get those Ted numbers.
A million ways to die in the West.
Maybe the frontier's not so bad after all.
Hey, it's a sweet young couple. Can I interest you folks in a miracle cure?
Holy shit!